Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TheoTrade Chat. It's Don Kaufman here on a Monday morning. It's August 25th, 2025. The S&Ps are off some 15 handles this morning. It's massive move. It's really not a massive move. It's I wished it was kind of a massive move. But all right, so some of the overnight trade from Sunday, beginning of the week here. We're doing 120,000 contracts, light and fluffy. There is quite a bit of movement on the front of volatility. There's no surprise here. I think a lot of people are looking at volatility right now and thinking, holy crap, it's actually moving. But the S&P's only down 14. That's all about it overshot, meaning volatility got overly crushed on Friday. Jerome Powell, you crushed fall, Jerome. Oh, Jerome. Anyway, volatility, for the most part, is kind of right where it should be at this point. A little bit of a bid back. We're up here at 15 on VIX when it opens. Taking a look at the bond market has completely reversed the move from last Friday. That is, in my opinion, one of the most critical things on the screen this morning. You cannot read the volume in the bond market right now because there is a roll going on. Look at the size of the volume, though, inside of the roll. Nothing less than magnificent. To give you an idea of just the sheer magnitude of the bond market, you need only look at the roll. And that's, by the way, that's it for the setup over here. Then you actually have the dollar just minimal strength inside of the dollar. We're not even going to start to look at individual products here in the pre-market. There's no reason to, and that's because the volume is so incredibly light in the Sunday into Monday morning trade. And what I mean is, you start looking around, even stuff like Apple. You realize Apple has only traded 400,000 shares in the pre-market. It's light and fluffy. So there's no use in kind of trying to distinguish what's up and what's down. Look, the NASDAQ's taking a little bit more of a hit on a percentage basis. Okay. The NASDAQ did not fare well last week. And you may see some of the same. And as I said to you, you can come in here and you can look at Meta. Oh, Meta in the pre-market is all kinds of bid. You won't know what this feels like in Meta. It's unchanged into the open, but you won't know what it feels like until 5-10 minutes into the cash open. That's kind of the world we've lived in a bit. The options order flow dictates markets to bell. My assumption here is that we actually take back off a little bit towards the lower overnight trade into the 64.60 handle. I think we're going to retest that into the open. With that, let's come to today's opening bell. All right, advanced decline line out of the gate, slightly listlessly lower. But on that front, that's not necessarily been a bad thing, because when we've seen negative advanced decline lines as of late, it has meant that markets were rotating into some of the big tech stocks. So again, mind you, a negative advanced decline line, okay, has actually been a pretty decent thing, and vice versa. We actually had a day where it was just big tech that was selling off and everything else was higher. The S&P still got pulled back, but the advanced decline line was stellar. Okay, have to love sessions like that. Ticks out of the gate this morning are negative, and yet the marketplace pops a little bit. As I said to you, my first kind of inclination for and kind of like looking at the tape early this morning, my assumption is that we're actually going to trade and touch right back down here into the 64.60. And I think that that'll happen relatively early on. Okay. Well, what do you see in the order flow? I see, in the order flow almost immediately. And again, the bonds kind of retrenching down didn't do it for me. Okay. What does it for me, and I should have brought this in the pre-market, but crypto is getting the living crap kicked out of it. We'll talk about it pretty extensively. And my assumption is that the crypto crack. The way I look at that, my, what a large candle. The crypto getting kind of systematically dismantled is going to spill back to tech. That's going to be important. The fact of the matter is, the S&Ps again should trade right back down into some of these lows, and then we'll kind of go from there. I don't have any assumptions beyond that. So let's kind of get into it here, looking at some of the tech stocks in early trade. Apple's off nominally, Amazon's off nominally, Google's basically flat, Meta's actually got some two-sided trade early on. There's nothing getting definitively, look, there's nothing in big tech that's getting definitively hit. They're just kind of getting hit just a little bit across the board. And it feels like the trade is being largely generated here in the futures contract. And I'm looking specifically right now at the NASDAQ futures contracts. So pay little attention, I should say, to the ticks right now. Pay very little attention to the advanced decline line. I urge you that right now, the selling that you're seeing in the marketplace, okay, is strictly what that XLF down there, that animal, that XLF should be there. The selling you see in the marketplace right now is strictly isolated to big tech. If you bring up the financials, okay, they've done nothing into the cash open. You bring up the energy sector, it's got nothing going on since the cash open. Again, all tech all the time right now. That's just the world you're living in. Caterpillar. Oh, I wanted to bring this up early on. Caterpillar, which I was looking to fade this, meaning like it sold off hard. It was going to bounce and then maybe come back down. Last Friday, dramatically changed my thinking in here. Sell off. Okay, now you're basically at an all-time high. Caterpillar actually could explode from here into all-time highs. I mean, it's right on the dance floor for that. And lately, I've actually been trading for a lot of that stuff. By the way, I'm trying to look at the order flow, although meager. I like to look at, come on, man, work. Look at this. It's not working. It's blanks. Okay. I'm drawing a blank. Give me option volume. Somebody make it work. Okay. Unplug it and plug it back in. That is my answer, by the way, for everything, especially with like Thinkorswim when nobody's like maintaining it. Just, it worked last week. Therefore, by the power invested in me, unplug the damn thing and plug it back in, reset, just reset your damn servers. See, this one's working. When you get order flow working from one like Nvidia and not something like Caterpillar, what we have here, there it's working. It's an exchange issue. It's an exchange data issue. And it's actually not the fault of Thinkorswim. Okay, that was an exchange data issue because I could tell I was bringing up New York Stock Exchange stocks and they weren't coming up. But then I brought up right here, NASDAQ stock, and it did come up. Okay, it's actually not a Chucky problem. This is a data issue. So it's a kind of people are like, how the hell could you know that? I've been on this platform for basically literally 25 years. I've seen every problem imaginable on this one. One of the first things we would always do is like something didn't work. Like you'd look over here and you'd be like, okay, that's a NASDAQ stock. And then it's a New York Stock Exchange stock. That one actually works, but there's no data. New York Stock Exchange. So there's a data issue. They come from different areas. So data is funky because you buy data from like one firm, but the data from that one firm comes from like 20 or 30 different places, sometimes like 50 different places. Running data is like almost like spokes on a wheel. There's that much data coming in from that many sources. New York Stock Exchange, like no one cares about the New York Stock Exchange. There's like 20 or 30 different option exchanges now. I don't even know how many option exchanges there are. When I was a kid, there were four option exchanges. Now they start, popping them up every single day. Okay. Do you know there's a Miami exchange? there's been a Miami exchange for a long time now, but did you know there's a Miami exchange? Okay, you're like, oh, where is that? It doesn't actually exist. They just call it the Miami exchange. All right, onward. So S&P is just bouncing around here at the cash open. The advanced decline line not really budging. So as I alluded to earlier, it's all tech kind of all the time. Apple, okay. I want to bring up Apple to start with. And one of the reasons I'm bringing up Apple, as I said to you in the pre-market, it hadn't traded anything right now. So it was 400,000 shares that we had traded in the pre-market. Now it's up to 2 million. Okay. And the order flow in the options, although light, okay, is the primary driver of the shares, right? And if you look at the order flow in here in Apple, okay, it's not like, look, there's the sale of puts, but there's also the sale of calls. That's not definitively negative, but just a little bit, of order flow starting to come in over here. But it's rather light out there. Nothing determined yet by any stretch of the imagination. The order flow inside of Nvidia, okay? Nvidia is probably going to be a little funky this week because it has its earnings, okay, on Wednesday. I'm sure every one of our instructors will talk about, earnings in Nvidia. By the way, can you hear the excitement of our voice? Like I could I kind of care less. I mean, but Nvidia, there's no question that this can be a make or break for AI. When you think about Nvidia's earnings, okay, could they be bad? Absolutely not. There's no chance in hell they're going to be bad. Okay. I mean, you have Elon Musk every single day talking about like, oh, eventually I have to buy like 5 million. It was something ridiculous. 5 million, the equivalency of 5 million H100 cards, yada, yada, yada. Like, there's no chance that the earnings are going to be bad. Okay. So there's two things you focus on in NVIDIA. Okay. The earnings are going to be good. The earnings could be blistering. Two things to focus on. Okay. Forward forecast. Can they keep up the spending? Because firms like Meta already cutting back in their AI division. By the way, they just hired another top AI person, okay, away from Apple, but that's a whole different story. So it would be kind of that forward pricing mechanism where they say like, oh, all right, we're not going to have necessarily the blistering pace that we've had, and or the good earnings are already priced in. And those are the two factors that are the big unknowns. It still makes it completely binary. Like I don't want to take that away from anybody, throughout the course of this week. I'm sure that some of our guys are going to give spectacular insights to NVIDIA. But I think it only comes down to, forecast. Of course, everybody's interested. And I got to tell you something about NVIDIA. How could you forecast what you're going to make if you don't know if you're even allowed to sell to China and you have to pay a 15% haircut to the United States government? Speaking of government, yeah, I know somebody was commenting like, how do you feel about Intel? Okay, I feel that it's a pile of crap. Can I ask this question inside of chat? And I'm posing a real question into chat. All right, we're moving on to Intel. We're moving on to Intel. Okay, so hold on. We're going to need some coffee for this one. Not coffee. That's pure espresso. Okay, I decided I'm using a smaller cup. I'm using a smaller cup. And with my smaller cup, I just put like 2 shots of espresso in there, except I took the little machine and made each shot about 2.5 ounces. So really what I have is about 5 ounces of espresso. Yeah, okay. Oh no, yeah, I can't like Irish whiskey. No, I can't do the drinking in the morning thing. That has never been, there's never going to be a hair of the dog here. I don't drink that much anymore. I mean, I want to, I just can't, man. I can't. So I lowered, I think, body fat, and me and alcohol. We don't mix so well anymore. I, I kind of hit the wall a few years ago. Okay. I don't mind drinking. I'd like to, but I kind of hit the wall. Okay. At some point the liver says, that's it. Okay. And then some reason, if the liver says that's it hurts my head. It's not fair. Continuing. Okay. Intel. So yes, we went from alcohol back to Intel. And I'm like serious about this question. Would you, if you were a CEO of a corporation, would you want to take the investment from the United States government of 10%? I mean, it's just a simple yes or no. Okay. I'm like really thinking about this a lot. Like, would you really want to take the investment? Because then you have to listen to red tape, garbage. You like, do they get a seat on the board? Does the United States government get a seat on the board? Okay. I mean, what are the famous line? You know, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Um, by the way, I haven't seen. Okay, I haven't seen one yes in chat, and I think it's a really fair question because I was actually thinking about it like last night. I was like literally thinking, I'm like, I don't think I'd want to take that. Okay, right. And by the way, that's a fair question. What has the government done effectively or efficiently? Okay. So if they had a complete like hands-off like approach, I still I don't understand what's the point of the United States government owning 10%. Okay. And that's also it's a real question. Well, what's the point? I mean, are we building a sovereign wealth fund? Okay. Kind of turning into a Switzerland that prints money and then goes out and buys US tech stocks. Like, again, I'm not sure of the point because the stock goes up. Everybody will forget about that. The irony is the stock today is up 20%. First of all, I'm the first to say this. Last week, I said, I don't think it's going to happen. I literally said that last week. I don't think that the government, okay, I didn't think the deal would happen. I think it's kind of a ridiculous deal because, the government, looked at a nice shiny object and then kind of moved on to the next one. I figured they would just let this deal die. They're not. Okay. But again, it's a public company. So with the United States government buying 10%, it's not any capital that Intel can use. It's just helping shareholders, which is completely asinine to me, but whatever, I mean, it's just helping shareholders. Okay. Nobody necessarily at you can see, how much do we help shareholders? We help them by 32%. Okay. But that's all it really does. This is not an infusion of cash. Okay. Obviously, then, Intel, they're going to look at national security, which is it's totally going to slow the company down. Okay. Because they're going to say, because of national security, I mean, I get the reasoning behind it. They're going to turn around and say it's national security. Chips are absolutely imperative to the United States, to the future of the United States. Hence, we actually bought part of Intel. They didn't really need to do that. Okay. I mean, Microsoft actually builds clouds for the US government. Amazon is involved in, government constantly. It goes on and on and on and on. Does the United States government own part of SpaceX? Hell no. That's one. I don't think that 10% is for sale at SpaceX, and I'm pretty sure that SpaceX, okay, right now is as if not more important than possibly Intel. SpaceX probably couldn't run without Intel. Nevertheless, I don't think they actually use Intel. Taiwan Semiconductor. The point being, though, okay, I don't see any like upside to either Intel. The only upside like I really see over here is to the shareholder, and that upside is clearly already played out as the stock starts to sell off. Okay, and that's actually one of the reasons I'm mentioning it. Like, is this a trade right now? Do we sit here and say like, it hit the upper edge of the expected move, hit it again, maybe it's pulling back a little bit here. Do you take a short position because the government doesn't know what the hell they're doing? Okay. And by the way, that's a fair assumption. And I think anybody that would have worked for the government would actually agree with that. Okay. Plenty of people that work for the government know what they're doing. The government as a whole can't get out of their own way. I think that's probably a more fair statement on that one. And by the way, I don't think it's like, not to go down the political road, I don't think it's anything like socialism. I do truly believe, okay, that they're doing this because they believe in like the whole national security like avenue. That's That's my interpretation of it. Is they're citing like national security, yada yada yada. We're going to own part of Intel, but again, government and slow is no way to run a corporation. It's just, you know, it's just the last people like and I really like who sits on that board. Like if they do get a board seat, do you put Peter Navarro on there? That would be awesome. If you guys have no idea who I'm talking about, you should look into him. He actually did a lot of the deals in the first Trump administration with China. Okay, just total like loose cannon, but doesn't matter about your politics. You got to love the guy. He's totally nuts. Went to jail, right? Contempt of court. Okay. Don't worry. He's actually running all the negotiations right now. That's who I'd want on my board. Yes. Yes. Or Scotty B. Okay. Scott B from the Treasury could actually be a board seat at Intel. Okay. For those of you that do not know, is our Treasury Secretary made his billions shorting stocks. Just throwing that one out to you. Okay. You look into it. Okay. Scotty B from the Treasury made his billions shorting. Continuing on. You have to love that. Continuing on over here. Anyway, that's look, there's no negative comments needed about Trump or anybody in there. Like it doesn't have to be political. I always tell people this. I worked, coming up through like Thinkorswim. There was another CEO of Thinkorswim, wasn't Tom Sosnoff for a while. And the CEO, like everybody hated him, but he was really, really effective. Okay. I look at that for like outside of like any political like leaning. Okay. Whoever's like running the US or, governors, so forth. I don't look at them anymore as politicians. It's more of a CEO, perspective, at least for me at this point. And again, I can make, pretty good argument for why Intel just took in 10%. I mean, I can tell you from Intel's perspective, okay, you want some job security, take 10% ownership from the U.S. government. But it is not. This actually really isn't so much politics as it is at this point. You're running a company. S&P is starting to ebb maybe just a little bit lower here. As I said, it's going to be kind of a sloptastic morning, but I do believe that we are going to retest. Okay. In fact, I'm going to give you that whole logic right now. I believe we're going to retest through the 64.60. Okay. So I believe we're going to retest through it. I'm going to tell you exactly why now. So let me kind of clear the chart and get into this a little bit. And then we're going to look at some trade opportunities, of which, by the way, Boeing's down another buck. Just bear with me here for a second. Boeing is right on that dance floor. Moves down just a few more dollars, and we're home on that one. All right. So, okay, back to the S&Ps briefly. On the weekend update, I was talking extensively, okay, about specific levels. So I just switched us to the same chart that I was using, okay, on the weekend update, and that's a chart that is literally 180-day. I'll highlight it in a second. Okay, right back there. This is 180-day, 4-hour chart. The only reason that I use the S&Ps, and it's on the S&P futures, the S&P futures is a very clean, because it's a continuous chart. It's very clean because there's no, look, it closes for a couple hours here, there, closes here, closes over the weekend, but it's just a clean take and includes, of course, overnight trade. The point that I was trying to make on the weekend update, we broke outside this volatility channel briefly, and really briefly, for like a week, and we didn't do it with any fierce trade. So, and again, pay very careful attention in here, right? My assumption, okay, when you break like one of these volatility channels, you're just kind of flowing in this volatility channel. And this whole volatility channel, okay, is it's plus or minus 200 points. That's it. We had 200-point move on a $6,000 product is ridiculously small, right? 60 points is 1%. all trade has happened inside of a 3% range, okay, for what? All of July and all of August now. So you're literally, you're between 7 and 8 weeks into the exact same range. That's a really long time to be stuck inside of a 200-point range. The assumption, okay, when markets break these ranges, they should explode out of them, like literally like to a whole different, okay, trade, like just explode out of it to the point where, you should be trading right now like 6,600. We failed to do that. We broke out listlessly and just basically dropped right back into it, okay? So again, the next time around right here, and all of a sudden we're fading again. If we fade, and today we fade back under the 6450, 6450, I kept saying on the weekend updates, really, really critical. We fade back into it. At that point, it's really, in my opinion, very bearish for the markets overall. Okay, you've had multiple attempts, okay, to completely, trade outside, develop obviously like a new range in here. And I'm bringing this up because this to me it's all that matters right now. Now, people are looking at NASDAQ, looking at this. Look, we're going to look at the NASDAQ in just a second, but there's a fail rate up here that we have to pay attention to. And again, it matters, like literally today, tomorrow, this week. You break back to 6450. It doesn't, it's bearish to the point where like you're coming right back down here to the 6250. And we will possibly cycle to 6250 and then bid back up. And then, we'll see at that point. It's bearish to fall under 6450, but it's only bearish, okay, to the point of about 200 points in the S&Ps. That is, and I wanted to make that clear, kind of, that point over there. By the way, this is really it's enthusiastic trade right now. It's a giant wedgie, man. It's a giant wedgie. Continuing on. Okay. I like that. I'm just looking down here. All right. With that being said, again, that would just be some key levels. And I'm using 6250 and 6450. They're just kind of marquee levels. Is it like incredibly precise? Not really. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to be incredibly precise, but literally all the trade has actually occurred inside of that range. And you better be mindful of it, because as soon as you cycle back down, like it's on at that point, there'll be some sell side activity. Now, for the other side of trade, in this one, you can take this bullish or bearish. I'm not trying to bear up on you. The NASDAQ last week, it cannot be overstated that the NASDAQ last week finished considerably lower. The S&Ps finished basically unchanged on the week, okay? But the NASDAQ finished the week more than halfway home to the lower edge of its expected move. It actually breached the expected move, came back in. So the rally on Friday, okay, it was, again, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, it was less about Jerome Powell. Nobody gives two craps about a quarter-point interest rate cut. Nobody cares. Oh, a quarter point. Okay. By the way, just so you guys know, I heard what Jerome Powell said, and so did you. Okay. We all heard it, except just take a quick gander with me here at the Fed Fund futures. Okay. Which have now gone back up to 70, or sorry, they were at 75% on Friday, but they've now gone back up to 86%. This is the probability of like a rate cut. Mind you, if you look back a little bit here, okay, some of these probabilities were even higher, right, during certain days last week, meaning that after Jerome Powell spoke, the probability of a rate cut really didn't dramatically change. So what was said, by Jerome Powell, nothing. I think the marketplace, okay, had 5 days of sell side activity, and it was just a trigger at that point. literally, like I'm saying to you, and again, there's not like a media person out there that would probably agree with this, but that move right there, in my opinion, is 100% from like oversold conditions and just a catalyst, just sparking an explosion to the upside, and it's over. And that's why there was no follow through. Okay, we did trade a massive amount of options on Friday, though. Traded almost one of the records of options on Friday. Nevertheless, okay, here we are, and there's still, okay, if you looked at the Fed, there's still a substantial amount of time between now and the next Fed meeting. Okay, you still have almost a month of data to come out. There is huge, okay, internal conflict right now between the Fed presidents. So, people, they kind of think Jerome Powell has the final word. They actually go around a table, okay, and kind of argue for a cut or not a cut. Jerome Powell literally gets the last word in that argument, but they still vote, okay? And I do believe that even if they cut this next time in September, the votes are going to be dramatically split, okay? And there might be enough votes that they don't cut. I'm going to just throw this on the table from my point of view. I know there's an 86% chance of a rate cut, okay? I know that the media said the rate cut is definitely happening. In my opinion, between now and that actual Fed meeting, some of the data that's going to come out is going to push us back, okay? And there may not be a cut. I know that the data says right now 86% chance, okay? I'm 50-50. The other Fed presidents spoke in Jackson Hole. Nobody seemed to pay any attention to it. All they listened to was Jerome Powell. Anyway, I'm 50-50, but I don't really give a damn because I don't think the rate cut, oh my gosh, a quarter point, it's going to make all the difference on buying a house in Florida that I can't insure. I figured I'd start ripping on Florida a little bit on that one. Okay. You can't really, it's hard to make fun of Florida. Okay. I'm just kidding. It's really easy to make fun of Florida, but you can't really get insurance when your insurance is more than like the mortgage. I would like to insure my home and the insurance will cost more than the mortgage and they still won't fix anything. Okay. By the way, if you guys have never heard this one, I freaking hate homeowners insurance. Absolutely hate them. Okay. Paid for years. Okay. Totally got screwed when my house flooded here. And I have to litigate to get money out of them. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But 4 years down the road, okay, I might get a third of the money back. Maybe. Okay. Maybe a third of it. Who's really getting paid? The attorneys are doing well. That much I know. Yeah, where are our attorneys? Okay. Where are the attorneys in the room over there? So I actually can't mention the insurance company. Okay. It's a smaller one though, that I can say. I can't mention the insurance company. I'm literally in litigation with the S&Ps. Look at this. They're popping. They're popping. Okay. Dogs and cats living together. This is I'm actually surprised right now. Okay. Not that we're like rallying, that you're seeing some buy sides specifically to the NASDAQ is what I'm a little surprised by because mind you, the advanced decline line has actually gone slightly down just by 3 stocks. Okay, but it's exactly the point I'm trying to make. The worse the advanced decline line, okay, the better the NASDAQ's gotten. I am still like today, I'm going to have a tough time being categorically bullish for today. And again, one of the primary reasons, one of the first notes I have in here, let's just jump in and talk about it. Okay, allow me to ask, what is going on inside of crypto today? Crypto is getting the crap kicked out of it. This is a big move. So I'm using BITO, not because I trade BITO. I'm using BITO. Okay. BITO is one of the ETFs. Okay. And BITO, though, is a Bitcoin futures ETF. Okay. So it's actually based on, like, it's not, it says ProShares Bitcoin ETF, but it's really based on the futures contracts. So the reason that I'm using BITO is because I want you to see the full week expected move is like 82 cents. Okay. but the move today is already 94 cents. So if we look at this from a perspective of options, it's already cracked the expected move. The only reason I throw that up there, by the way, I throw expected moves up here, not because it's a technical indicator. I'm throwing expected moves up there to justify that this is a big move. Okay, how do I know it's a big move? We have this 5-day trading week, and in the first 20 minutes of trading day, in the first 2 seconds of trading day, you're already outside what the options market expected. And you're like, oh, but the options market is small. Okay, hold on there, cowboy. This options marketplace, maybe in Nvidia, is small, but there's an option marketplace out there in crypto that's freaking big, really big. It's growing. It's just kind of off the radar a little bit. Meaning that like in Bitcoin itself, there is a substantial options market now, and this market here in Nvidia represents that market just as well. So you have billions of dollars trading in this option marketplace, and that crap is wrong. And it's like, I don't look for stuff to be like, oh, they got it wrong. No, my estimation of what is going well in a market, not going well, is when you breach one of these expected moves, especially like on a Monday morning, you're like, everything wrong. Okay. They got everything wrong in here. And that's why I say, like, what the hell is going on? And everybody tries to come up with a reason. Well, Don, okay, this happened in Don, like, oh, this happened over here. Okay. That's it's kind of crazy. Anyway, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong. The truth is, okay, I don't give a damn what you don't always have to have a narrative to everything in the marketplace. The media has to have a narrative to everything in the marketplace. I can't stress that enough. The narrative, for instance, from last Friday, a quarter point is baked in. Does a quarter point justify a 96-point move to the upside in the S&Ps? No. The only thing that justifies that is probably in a little bit of oversold conditions. And we just bid back last week. You don't need a narrative over here. There's sell-side activity inside of crypto. The only question at this point, and again, stop wasting, and I say this a lot, especially when I do the mentorship, the mega masterminds, and I say this a lot, stop wasting brain power, okay, on stupid reasons, narratives. Okay, narratives are all stupidity. It doesn't freaking matter. And the longer I've been in this business, the more I try to get retail to understand exactly that. You turn on CNBC, okay? You literally, if you have the volume on, you're doing something wrong. Okay, turn the volume off. If you're going to watch it, use it for like the little crawler across the bottom. You're like, oh, look at the QQQ. Oh, there's my stock. There's my stock. There it is again. Like, that's all it's worth. That's all it's worth, because you don't want those narratives getting in your head. Here we have crypto, okay, specifically Bitcoin. But I think it's fair, then we need to go look at crypto itself. Okay, now we're looking at all crypto. Okay, forget about this crap over here, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I could actually break this to its own screen. I won't right now. I just want you to look, though, okay, at the percentages. Hold on, I'm going to highlight it. Wait for it. Right here, okay? Crypto across the board is getting smoked. Now, if you take a look right here, you're like, but how come it's only down 0.71%? Okay, here's the difference. Little Bitcoin kind of resets nightly. It trades 24/7, and it resets, for instance, at midnight. Okay, so when it resets at midnight, all of a sudden, though, if you take a look at the Bitcoin futures, they reopen on Sunday. So if there was a gap down, for instance, on Saturday, the Bitcoin futures are going to open on Sunday. They're going to reflect, again, a much more substantiated hit. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just different trading hours. So the reason it's only down 0.7% here, like, oh, the hit's not that bad. Okay, it is, monkey. It is. And we can actually bring up a chart to this effect. So crypto, look at that crap. That got spectacular. There's like a little momentary crash in here. So let's open up a 5-day, 5-minute, and let's go even more than 5 minutes. I hate these freaking charts. Okay. Anyway, we are looking at That's some, we looking at some crypto, okay? And you can see there's the gap up. There's the Jerome Powell, okay? We moderated at basically 115,000. And then there's not really this dramatic or precipitous decline. There's some declines here, okay? But there's been some fairly wild trade in it. Okay, that's it. Like there's no other if and or but. It was trading basically 115,000 and it has dropped, okay, and continued to drop overnight. It's basically 112, so yeah, down 3-4 grand. But to me, the bigger story here is the crack outside of its expected move. We'll see if it claws back in. So it's a move that was not seen by the marketplace. Okay, all right. And again, here we have somebody's like, some profit taking in crypto. You got to stop with that. You're putting a narrative to it. So is it profit taking if all of a sudden I'm a proprietary trading firm and I'm serious about this because I want you to see like it's just we put stories to every move that happens on there. Profit taking, baby. Okay, that's madness. Why the hell do you think it's profit taking? How about I come in, okay, literally on the weekends and start buying puts. And if I start buying puts, okay, and even in the crypto marketplace, you trade options on it. If I start buying puts, okay, there's going to be some dealer that has to sell me puts. When they sell me puts, they have to actually sell crypto. How do you know it's not that? I want to know. I want to know how you know what the order flow in there is because you don't. And people are, but you have no idea. You don't know what the order flow is. Okay, I can cause moves now today just trading the derivatives, not necessarily profit taking. And that's exactly the kind of crap that we have to move away from because everything is a story. Okay, everything is like some narrative. And the narrative is whatever does it for you, baby, whatever does it, put it in your head, get told a story out there. You're like, I'll believe that one. Okay, why don't you just look at the order flow? The one weird thing is it's almost impossible to read order flow inside of the crypto marketplace because it's a fractured marketplace and there's internalization engines. What that basically means is if you look at like coin, okay, we familiar with what coin is? Okay, what is Coinbase? Let me ask you guys this. What's Coinbase? Anybody? This is actually this one's on the test because a lot of people are not really familiar with how this. What does Coinbase do? What does Coinbase do? Okay. Patty said it's an exchange. Okay. But wait a second. If it's an exchange, like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is an exchange, CME Group is an exchange, the CBOE is an exchange, can you open an account with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange? Huh? Can you open an account with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange? The answer is hell no. You can't open an account. Okay. So how is Coinbase an exchange? Oh, they're an exchange, but they're also a broker. Oh, but they're also actually a market maker. Well, that's fair. Think about that one for a second. Okay. Know where you are and know that when you're looking at something like coin, this is also an internalization engine. What that basically means is they're capable of taking the other side of your trade. Imagine that you're actually holding somebody's account, but also taking the other side of the trade. Interactive brokers used to do that. They don't do it anymore. Okay, it's called an internalization. There can be trades going off over here. There's no consolidated tape inside of crypto. There's all kinds of, fractured exchanges everywhere. I don't even know if you call them exchanges. There's still the old school crypto people are still peer-to-peer. They're like, little Johnny's here. Okay, little Donnie's over here. And they just cross some transactions. Okay, that's what crypto started as. You didn't need an exchange. The whole idea of crypto, okay, has been so distorted. Like, why is it okay to have an account with Coinbase? It ruins the entire thing. Shouldn't you just be able to get on your computer and cross a transaction with somebody else? I need an intermediary. You need somebody that can actually make billions of dollars off you because you can't just cross. Like, think about this for a second. And yet we start to come, well, the profit taken from last week. Okay. No, they're not. You have no idea what's really going on in that marketplace. And I venture to say that crypto, in some instances, okay, I'd pay careful attention to it because I think it's in the forefront now of a lot of trade. And the reason I think it's on the forefront, this is inextricably linked, okay, to high beta, which means, let's just say, this is high volatility crap. And the high volatility crap, okay, would be like the next thing on my list would be like some of the tech stocks, like an Nvidia. So if you see wild sell side activity inside of something like crypto, those same investors, okay, that are going to be in something like crypto are going to be in high beta stuff in other places. Okay. And I don't want to bring up like, people like bring up Riot. Okay. Look, I can definitely bring up like Riot, which is, but we're same thing. Like MicroStrategy, bring that up. Okay, easy enough. But there's bleed from like, one product directly over to others on the screen. And again, no narrative over here, but people that are into crypto, eventually they start owning stuff like Nvidia. So if you look, and if crypto continues to crack, okay, people are going to start to sell some crypto because they're getting a little bit nervous. It's not profit taking. They're getting a little nervous out there, especially when it's down some 5%. If it was down 10%, there's going to be panic at the disco. If it's down 10%, then they're going to bleed and start to actually sell stuff like Nvidia. That's where I'm actually going with it. And there's no question now, if you have an account at like Tasty or Robinhood, okay, Tasty or Robinhood, your funds are pretty much like commingling between stocks, options, futures, crypto. There's no difference. Everything is kind of seamless on one front end GUI, one front end piece of technology. So by the very nature of correlation, the way correlation works is once you start to list a product on the same platform, it's correlated. Okay. Even if it's an inverse correlation, there's correlations in there. We having fun yet? Okay. By the way, actually, that's a great point. Somebody said it's the same people that buy Hood. Actually, that's an excellent point. Okay. And that is my point precisely. That's a great example. It's the same people that would buy stuff like Robinhood. Look at that, 2.2 beta. That's exactly my point. It's a great stock to prove that one. I mentioned Nvidia because Nvidia is, the big monkey on the block, but Nvidia I know has over a 2 beta as well. So the people that have to worry, and I'll give you a perfect example too. The people that have to worry, the people that hold positions like the stuff in here, Gianni De Ponce. Gianni's actually he's out today. He's still trading, but he's out today. He's traveling in Italy right now, but Gianni has some high beta stuff. Okay. And his high beta stuff takes hits when crypto typically takes hits. He's not necessarily invested in all crypto stuff, but it's high beta. And you got to be a little bit concerned about that. All right. So again, there's a narrative to everything. And the narratives, okay, they really get on the nerves. I'm sick of hearing every narrative in here. And crypto is a perfect one. Okay. Like, look, that, okay, that there's no profit taking. You're actually down pretty considerably. It was a bid back and they're selling into it. That's the way that I view it. Like, that's a pretty substantial decline in the last couple of trading sessions. If you actually went, I'll just go from this candle to right here. Okay. You're down 10%. Okay. It's getting real out there. So you are down 10% inside of Bitcoin. And I'm not going from the absolute high. I'm going from just the top of this candle, okay, to where we presently are. Yeah. Okay. All right. So actually, I like what Jeff Bierman just said. Narrative. Okay. Narratives are always biased. It just fits the agenda. Everything is that these days. Okay. Why is Intel going to be owned by the government? It's good for them. You can put any story you want to it. Okay. But you got to remember, stories are just that. And you need to file those under the fiction category, not the nonfiction. Okay. In your Dewey Decimal System. Okay. How many people here are old enough to remember that? I am. Okay. So here's actually a little 2-second fun story. We're living on the island of St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. And we were homeschooling the kids because it was during COVID. Like most of the schools were shut down, including St. Croix, right? So the schools are shut down and we're kind of homeschooling all 3 kids. And my wife she's actually really good at that. She goes, let's put them back in school because just let them play, whatever. And we'll teach them everything they need to know at home, but just put them in school for the fact of like, other kids and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So we take a tour of school in St. Croix. Okay. And now, by the way, this is a private school. It's the only private school on the island. We take a tour of it. Okay. And they take us into the library, and my wife, like, she like elbows me like kind of hard. What the hell? She goes, "We're not sending our kids here." And I go, "What? It looks like a really nice school." She goes, "Two things." She goes, "Number one," she goes, "there's no air conditioning in the classrooms." She goes, "These kids are going to die." She said, "Number two, they're still using the Dewey Decimal System in the library. They have no computer, like there's no computers to figure out where everything is." She goes, "We're out." I was, okay, you got me. Okay. You got me. Anyway, continuing on. And there were iguanas all over that school, man. They were all over the school. Like I literally was like walking around like, where's my pellet gun? Where's my pellet gun? That was my own reason. Okay. I seriously have problems with those things. Okay. Me and iguanas, yeah, we don't get along. We don't get along. Okay. I was actually up in the mountains this past weekend, and there were deer sitting on my back patio. I was like, them I can handle. They're even allowed to go to the bathroom outside. Like, I'm cool with it. Me and the deer were good. A couple of elk came by. I'm all good with it. You're an iguana, you're freaking dead. All right. Anyway, S&P's doing absolutely nothing. They did not break lows. Okay. We're about 10 points higher than I expected us to be at this point. But the NASDAQ has actually come back a little bit. Let's talk about some individual trade. So crypto is getting smoked. Let's talk a little bit about Restoration Hardware, okay? Wayfair. So if you're not familiar with what has occurred, okay? So this one's a little bit more than a story. Restoration Hardware, okay? The stock is actually back up a little bit from some of the pre-market lows. Still down though, almost 6%. Some fairly heavy sell side activity. I would assume that this is probably going to turn back down. There's going to be comments all day about it. Okay. Bottom line, Restoration Hardware, they import almost everything. Okay. Vietnam, China, they just bring in containers after container of furniture. And oh, thank God I'm not furnishing another house right now. Okay. The Wayfair took a bigger hit. For those of you that don't know what Wayfair is, first of all, it's hard to borrow. Stock's getting hit to the tune of 7%. This is an interesting one because it is hard to borrow. Okay. It's literally right now here. Let's look at a bigger chart, bigger time frame. Okay. It's literally right now got a bid back, under it, back up to 80, but it is way, way off some of the all-time highs. I mean, Wayfair just got decimated. Okay. In fact, you can even bring up a larger chart, 369 plus, the real high is probably somewhere around 350, now trading $72, but it's a fairly substantial hit. Okay. What I don't understand about this, and mind you, okay, deer jerky. What I don't understand about this is we've already discussed tariffs. Now we're looking at, okay, sector specific tariffs. In this particular instance, they're looking at putting tariffs on furniture that's being imported, Southeast Asia, China, above and beyond, okay, any of the tariffs that are already out there from a place like Vietnam. A lot of furniture actually comes from Vietnam. A ton of furniture comes from China, yada, yada, yada. Okay. They want to bring, okay, the furniture manufacturing back to North and South Carolina. I've actually got a pretty good friend on the island in St. Croix. He moves back and forth between North Carolina. He's in the furniture business, and he is literally, okay, get this, sixth generation, okay, furniture maker in North Carolina. And they're manufacturing stuff predominantly overseas. They can't compete. So I find it interesting. Anyway, for right now, because like Wayfair is still hard to borrow, okay, I'd be real careful in hopping into any of these. Like, I don't think that this is necessarily a time to buy, nor do I think it's a time to sell. The tariff discussion in here is one that I don't have my arms around at all, because again, you already agreed with these nations on tariffs. They're going to go back in there and they're going to screw with it. They're going to put tariffs specifically on imported furniture. So we'll see how it actually plays out. Yeah, by the way, what about Grand Rapids? You're actually exactly right too. Michigan has always been another place. It's North Carolina, South Carolina. North Carolina has been the epicenter of furniture manufacture in the United States, but Michigan is actually fairly substantial there. Would never forget about Michigan. My wife is from Michigan. I get reminded of that of all the time. Okay, all the time. Okay. Um, and can't talk crap about like the car manufacturers. Actually, she has no problem with that. She has no problem with that. She drives an American car from the other car manufacturer. You're like, which one is that? It's called Tesla. Nobody like forgets. Although every part is probably imported, including all the chips for that one. Okay. Oh, look at this. The S&Ps. By the way, if the S&Ps come down to the end of my session to 6460, okay, I might actually crack a smile because that's been my expectation over here. Anyway, all your furniture importers, like Restoration Hardware, it's overpriced crap. Okay. I have it in my house. I'm allowed to say that. Overpriced crap. Okay. That I can get at Living Spaces for literally a third of the price. Okay. Um, Continuing on. Which Tesla do I own? All of them but the Cybertruck. Fair enough, right? Okay. I'm gonna eventually have the Model 3 to, or sorry, the Model Y. Okay, I'll have a Y. But I've been driving an S for 2018, 7 years. Okay. Before Elon became like totally nuts. Like I want that bumper sticker. Like I would never put a bumper sticker on my car, but the bumper sticker, like I was driving this before Elon went crazy. Okay. That stuff doesn't bother me at all. Like I don't know. I look at the product and like I don't care about the politics. Like I can't stand Tim Cook. I cannot stand Tim Cook. It's like one of my least favorite CEOs. Okay. It's like looking at like bland like pudding. Like he might as well be oatmeal. Like like Tim Cook literally is like oatmeal to me. It has no taste. It's just bland. Okay. But I still have an iPhone. And I only have an iPhone for the reason of ain't nothing else out there. I'll be damned if I'm getting on some Google system. It ain't gonna happen. I don't even care if the Samsung phone is better. Google will never run my life. Never. Okay. Never. Anyway, onward with that one. But uh, is the battery on your 7-year-old? I don't have a 7-year-old. I'm on my second Model S. I'm on my second Model S. I've never had any battery though deterioration at all on my cars ever. They're warranted for 8 years, so who cares? I've never had deterioration in my batteries, and I've actually been doing long distance. I've been going 150 miles. It's actually 170 miles door to door from here to Flagstaff the last couple of weeks. I've gone back and forth a bunch of times. No problems, okay, at all. But I do have, you know, I keep, 220, plugs in the houses. Okay, that makes it a lot easier. I don't ever supercharge really. I don't like to. I had to supercharge like once last week because I had to go there and back in the same day. Anyway, continue. Yeah, I don't like. Okay. By the way, I do like the former Uber guy. Okay, Travis. Okay, why? You got to be a little nuts. It's okay to be a little nuts, right? When you have people like from HR that end up firing like the CEO because he said some like rude things, that's it. By the way, that was the end of Uber too. So that's a perfect example. Okay, taking a look at Uber. I say like the end of Uber. The end of Uber. Obviously, Uber is still higher in terms of price. Okay, there's the max chart too. Uber is still higher in terms of price. This would have been a completely different company. Completely different company. Meanwhile, people make an argument like, Tim Cook is the greatest ever. Okay, this also would have been a completely different company, different CEO. Anyway, I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one to your own devices. He's like oatmeal. Tim Cook. You get rid of him. Okay. Who's going to be in there next? Okay. All right. Bring back Johnny. S&P is still doing nothing. Okay. Trade opportunities. some of the trade. Where is my thing? Where's some of the trade opportunities? By the way, wanted to bring up Palantir really quick. So I got to bring up Palantir on a day-to-day basis. Okay, why? This one's pretty marquee and for NASDAQ in general, and it's still actually seeing some sell side activity and some little violence right out of the gate this morning. I'm actually keeping this on my radar screen and promise to bring it up kind of every single day. The options order flow in here is stupendously large for Palantir. Even today, doing 400,000 contracts. To give you an idea, 400,000 contracts is almost as much as like Tesla's doing, right? So Palantir is taking a little bit of a hit. That again goes right into the same thing as like Bitcoin, right? We're talking like high impact. Okay, the people that invest in stuff like Palantir are the same exact people, okay, that are in like crypto. All right, onward from there. One of the trade opportunities I continue to kind of hunt has actually been an Altria group. It continues to kind of break down. I was looking for this to break down. I have not been able to get filled in here. I tried to get filled on Friday before, okay, Jerome Powell spoke. I could not get filled. I'm not going to try to fill it necessarily. Like 30 cents is quite a big move in here, but if it continues to break, the one interesting thing is the implied vol skew in here is against you on the puts. It's very rare to see this. There's an inverted implied volatility on those puts right now. That's kind of maintains itself and making it very, very difficult to fill in there. The trades that we have on right now, Google, gold, okay, Boeing, those three trades. Can you imagine this? Look at this. There's a bullish trade on gold and a bullish trade on Google. Okay. I mean, I know, I'm beside myself over here. All the trades that we presently have on, literally all of them, they're all right on the dance floor. This is where you want to be. And Boeing has 18 days left, and gold has 11 days left, and Google has 25 days left. By the end of this week, we're going to have to make some decisions in gold. If you still think gold is going to break to the upside, let's bring up GLD. But if you think gold, bring up GLD. If you think gold is continuing to break to the upside, what we're going to do is we're going to pick the trade up and move it further out in time, which I think is actually justified in this case. You know, I'll do a roll. By the way, I'm not scared of sending out a roll anymore. I'm not scared because the last time I did it, I only got like 20 emails. So we might roll that one. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. So what about an uber bullish vertical? Don't make me start. I don't know if I want to be too bullish right now, especially anything kind of tech related with crypto breaking down. That's my take. Jeff Thurman will be here, okay, for the next hour. Jeff, how was your weekend?
It was productive, quiet, getting
How's
ready
it productive?
for today's the first day of Loyola today.
Oh, are you professed in? Are you professed? Are you dressed in your professor jacket?
I never
You're
dress
wearing.
in a professor. I'm dressed like I'm in ready to go for like a cruise in Southeast Asia.
Oh, all right. You're not wearing the tweed jacket. Is it lovely in Chicago? You're getting
Actually, the weather is 68 degrees today, and it's a light breezy day. So what is it, 110 in Phoenix today?
I just came back to Phoenix yesterday, and it's about 107. It'll be like 105 today, but I'm going back up to Flagstaff on Wednesday. I'm uh, I'm not staying down here, like, 'cause obviously the kids are in school, but I'm not staying down here full time unless I absolutely have. I hate it. I hate 100 degrees. I really do. They go, why do you live in Arizona? Because I can drive 2 hours, and I woke up yesterday morning and it was 57 degrees up there, you know,
Mm,
and
like
then
that.
yeah, by the time I left, it was like 73. Okay, it just that doesn't get better than that, and I can go and like feed deer out of the hand. I haven't done that yet. I don't think I should do that. I'll be the one that gets like his hand bitten off over there. Okay. Yeah, again, I'm a mountain man. I'm a mountain man. I gotta grow the beard. Okay. It's good stuff. So yeah, back to school. Back to school for Jeff today. All right, what are you covering in this hour?
Final installment of the Fibonacci's to put it to bed for a few years. But beyond that, you stole my thunder because I wanted to talk about restoration hardware and
I know you
Wayfair.
did. I could actually sense it this morning. I know sometimes you hold back and you don't even tell me what stocks you're going to talk about
No,
because yeah, okay, I'm on that one, man.
yeah, but I've
You know
got
what's so
others to
weird?
talk about.
All he said was like, this has been like a public announcement. We're going after these furniture importers to bring manufacturing back.
Back to the
But
U.S.
I don't understand how you can say, okay, we've settled on tariffs. I think Vietnam's like 15% or something like that. I can't even remember
Right.
off the top of my head. And then they turn around and be like, except furniture, in which case it's 100%. Like, why aren't those countries going to get pissed off, give a big middle finger, and blow the deal? Like, because none of these deals that are like they're frameworks, like none of them are inked. You think that's not going to piss China off? Like, furniture importing is massive, massive business. Okay, and it's not even like most of the furniture is like not even like real wood. It's kind of like wood mixed with like plastic. It's very weird. I have a lot of that furniture right now. All right. Continuing on, let's turn it over to Jeff Bierman here for this next hour. Okay. He can talk about Fibonacci's. It's his thing. Jeff starts screaming about the 618 and it does it for me. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the next hour, Jeff Bierman.
All right. So as dawn rolls away into the sunset and the heat of Phoenix and it's fall is arriving in Chicago, let me say good morning and welcome to the second